Okay, this is from the book John Mcdougall, The Doctor Who Fought for You by me, Pete Rogers. We're going to be doing chapter 18 about the potato. One of Dr. Mcdougall's nicknames was Dr. Potato. Dr. Mcdougall is Irish. I'm also Irish. For the Irish people, potatoes have a special significance. The big Irish potato famine of about, around 1845 to a couple of years longer than that, where the British basically starved the Irish. Okay, it wasn't all just because of the potatoes. They were taking food out of the country, refusing to bring food into the country. They wanted the Irish people to starve so they could take their land from them. But anyways, the potatoes are one of the best foods you could have because they grow in harsh climates, and just a couple of acres can feed a family of 5. So you really don't need that much land to grow potatoes. All right. So here's Dr. Mcdougall on the potato. Dr. Mcdougall, by the way, has excellent lectures on the potato. They're called Potato Mastermind Lectures. You can get those over at his YouTube channel, Dr. Mcdougall Medical Center here on YouTube. You can also go to his website at drmcdougall.com. His Potato Mastermind Lectures are excellent. Okay, so here's a couple quotes from Dr. Mcdougall. If I was only allowed to eat one food, I would choose the potato. If I had to pick one food to save humanity, it would be the potato. Potatoes have the highest calorie yield per unit of farmland compared to any other crop. The potato grows under the ground, so it is a complete food. All the tubers are like that. The tubers tend to be like that. It has all the nutrients except for vitamin B12. They have called me Dr. Potato, and I like that. Potatoes provide ideal nutrition. Not just adequate nutrition, but ideal nutrition. Boiling and baking are good ways to cook potatoes. Potatoes have only 1% of calories from fat. Populations who eat lots of potatoes are trim and healthy. For example, in Peru, where they eat lots of potatoes, they are trim and healthy. Potatoes have a lot more. Oh, this is my little note. When you see it in brackets, that means it's my notes, things I added to what Dr. Mcdougall is saying. So potatoes have a lot more potassium than sodium. One serving of plain potatoes has 379 milligrams of potassium and only 4 milligrams of sodium. So that's almost, look at that ratio. That's like about 10 to 1. So it's at least 9 to 1, okay? That's a K-factor ratio, of 95 to 1. It's almost 100 to 1. It's an extraordinarily high K-factor ratio. K-factor is the ratio of potassium to sodium. And you want at least 5, really I would say at least 10 you'll have normal blood pressure for life. And that comes from the book Richard Moore, MD, PhD, who devoted his whole life to studying hypertension and its relationship to electrolytes and plasma membrane ion pumps. It's a great book. It's the best book ever written on hypertension is The High Blood Pressure Solution by Richard Moore, MD, PhD. I've given separate lectures entirely all about him and about sodium. Okay, getting back to Dr. Mcdougall. Sweet potatoes are very much like potatoes. In Papua New Guinea, where they used to get 92% of their calories from sweet potatoes, they were trim and healthy. To be healthy, you just need clean water and air, moderate activity, exercise, sunshine, comfortable surroundings, companionship, plant-based starch diet. Returning to your religious roots can also help to lower stress. Okay, so one of the points I wanted to make is notice what Mcdougall says here. The Papua New Guinea, who ate a starch for 92% of their calories, I've read other papers say 93%, were really healthy. I tell you this because there's sort of a buzz going around on the internet. Oh, the more variety of plant foods you eat, the better. That's not true. I mean, you don't need to eat that many plant foods. Papua New Guinea were healthy eating just one food, one starch. Okay, Mcdougall usually says eat about 90% of your calories from starch, 5% from fruits, 5% from veggies. And he didn't even say eat 2 different starches. He says eat any starch. You're going to have more nutrients in a potato grown out of the ground than you are going to have in rice, like white rice, where they polish it and they remove some of the outer coating, the bran and stuff. Okay, potatoes are an excellent food for athletes. Potato puree, mashed potatoes, can serve as a race-feeding strategy to support prolonged exercise performance for trained cyclists, maintaining blood glucose concentration, facilitating gastric emptying, and supporting cycling performance, comparable to commercial carbohydrate gel products. Potatoes are cost-effective, a whole food, nutrient-dense source of carbohydrate. Potatoes have been called the anti-scurvy vegetable. Potatoes are very cheap. Potatoes went from South America, they originated in the Andes, to Europe in the 1600s. Potatoes have provided abundant food. This extra food availability enabled an increase in population for England and for Wales in the 1800s. Okay, potatoes can grow to maturity in as little as 50 days. That's pretty extraordinary. So you get a couple growing cycles. 1 acre of potatoes can feed 10 people for a year. Wow, that's a lot. 1 acre, he says, can feed 10 people for a year. That's extraordinary. When stored underground or under cool, dry, well-vented conditions, potatoes can store for years. I know if I just store them in my kitchen on the ground, they don't last that long. I mean, okay, infants can do well when fed potatoes. Okay, continuing with Dr. Mcdougall on potatoes. In World War I, the Danes switched from eating animal foods to eating potatoes, and they did very well during the time of rationing. The Germans continued to eat large amounts of animal foods, and hundreds of thousands starved to death. In 1925, a 25-year-old man and a 28-year-old woman under close medical supervision ate a diet of almost entirely potatoes, and they came out of it as healthy as ever. Here's the reference for that. Charles Voigt, the director of the state's potato commission, ate 20 potatoes a day for 60 days straight. During that time, he lost 21 pounds while eating 2,200 calories of potatoes per day. His total cholesterol went down 67 points. And you can also see that at a website, 20potatoesaday.com. There's a lot of people I hear extraordinary things about potato eaters. Andrew Taylor, he's the guy who went on the Spud Fit diet. He was a real heavy guy, around 300 pounds. He lost 117 pounds when he went on a potato diet for 1 year. He has online videos. He's a nice guy. I saw his lectures. If you are sick and you don't know what to do, and you are too distracted at the moment to study and think in more detail, then just eat potatoes. Potatoes are superior nutrition. So that's a big statement. Just eat potatoes. I even heard Dr. Mcdougall say the most intense, powerful thing you can do in nutrition is only eat sweet potatoes for 4 months. That's it. And take a vitamin B12 supplement. And if you haven't tried that, you haven't tried everything you can do with diet therapy. Potato is one of the best foods, if not the best food, for satisfying hunger. That's pretty widely known. Potatoes are considered by many to be the best thing to satisfy hunger. Healthy foods are way cheaper, much cheaper than hospital bills. Potatoes and sweet potatoes are almost the same. Sweet potatoes and yams are almost the same. Potatoes and sweet potatoes both have only 1% of calories from fat, so they make you skinny. Also, potatoes tend to have about 8 to 9% of calories from protein. Sweet potatoes have 4.5% of calories from protein, so I actually think it's good to minimize dietary protein. So sweet potatoes, extraordinarily healthy. Only 1% of calories from fat, only 4.5% of calories from protein. It's as good as it gets. Potatoes are as good as rice for lowering blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. Okay. Potatoes grow most efficiently in the northern latitudes like Idaho and Wisconsin of the USA. One can grow more potatoes per acre than any other starch. Potatoes are drought tolerant. Potatoes are also heat tolerant. They're also relatively disease resistant. It takes 4 times as much land to grow the equivalent amount of rice as potatoes. That's a big statement. You need 4 times as much land to grow the same amount of calories from rice as you do from potatoes. It takes 6 times as much land to grow the equivalent amount of wheat as potatoes. 6 times as much land. So what he's basically saying is potato is the food that makes the most sense for convenience, especially when growing land is limited. And he basically said you could feed 10 people off 1 acre of potatoes, meaning that a lot of people have a half-acre backyard. They could feed a family of 5 for a year, is what he said. Potatoes as a crop produce the most food energy per liter of water used on the plant. In the future, the world would be better off if we ate more potatoes. I think we're going to have to eat more potatoes and rice. Do not eat the spud roots of potatoes because they contain increased amounts of solanine, so you should break those off. When potatoes spoil, they can accumulate a toxic chemical called solanine, so you should throw those out. Solanine is especially in the green stuff on spoiled potatoes, so do not eat these. Break those off or cut them off. Okay. Throw out the spoiled potatoes. Potatoes are cheap. Side effects of eating solanine can include headache, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, weakness, depression, and finally paralysis, a rare skin disease called potato eruption. Death from solanine poisoning is very rare. Okay, and by the way, I'd eaten potatoes all through my life. I never had a problem ever from potatoes of any sort. If a potato's spoiled or I just throw it out. If it's got the little spud things growing out, I just break those off, throw them away. And this is from the Potato Mastermind Lectures, parts 1 and 2 by Dr. Mcdougall at the Dr. Mcdougall YouTube channel. So I hope you found that interesting. That's Dr. Potato's take on the potato.